Thanks everyone for staying late. So what we're going to talk about, multi-cloud network security and compliance. That's our topic. So my name is Shahzad Ali. I'm the principal solutions architect here at Aviatrix. So I've been in Cisco and then VMware, and now I'm part of this multi-cloud journey. So if you guys had followed the evolution of networking, you would have seen that back like 20 years ago, Cisco started building the networks for the enterprises, right? And then Juniper came along and other companies. But everything was on-prem, right? So routers, switches, firewall, load balancers. And then you actually followed some sort of architecture, right? In the data center, it was core axis aggregation, then it became a spine and leaf. In the WAN, we had different type of architecture, but that was the theory, that was the theme, right? And that's how the data center guys and the IT guys, they operate. Then VMware came along, they virtualized the compute, the storage, and then eventually network also became virtual with the SDN type technologies, but more or less everything stayed on the on-prem side, right? So that's the private cloud momentum we saw. Now in the background, what was happening that these services were given to the IT guys or the business owners, but they were slow in terms of providing those or coming up with new innovative services. So there was a cloud momentum that started happening. People started deploying their workload in the cloud. The DevOps momentum was there. But in the process, what happened that no one followed the architecture approach. So that was the gap that was huge and was widening a lot. And then obviously these cloud providers are doing their best to provide you the networking and security services, but they have a massive amount of customers that they need to cater, and they cannot give you each and every knob and then the networking and security feature that you're looking for. So in the process, customers came to us that this is like limited to me. I want to do BGP as part prepend, for example, or I want to route my traffic in a different way. So the traffic engineering or those type of services are not available in these clouds. And this is exactly what happened. And Aviatrix was founded back in 2014. And the platform that we have is very mature and comprehensive, right? There are thousands of deployments that we have done for number of enterprise customers. So our objective is to basically provide the simplicity when it comes to building the cloud network across these major public cloud, right? And then in the process, what our customers are getting, they're getting their business done properly in the cloud way, right? So they're getting the efficiency that they need. They're providing the compliance that is required by these business owners and applications. They're reducing the risk in the process, right? So this is what we are providing to our enterprise customers. Now, there is a misconception out there when people talk about multi-cloud. Okay, so multi-cloud has different meaning to different people. When you look at this layer here in the bottom, you see all the on-prem resources, your branches, your SD-WAN options, or your data centers. When they talk about multi-cloud, they are basically talking about connecting to the cloud, right? So the SD-WAN providers or the Equinix or the Megaport providing the private connectivity, or some new SASE players out there, they're talking about this connectivity here. Well, what happens that they bring you into the cloud, but they will leave you at the doorstep of the cloud. So now what are you going to do inside the cloud? And this is exactly where Aviatrix plays. So Aviatrix provide this multi-cloud networking and security abstraction in the single cloud or across multiple clouds. The choice is yours, right? So this is the platform that we have. This is the platform that we build. You will also see some people talk about multi-cloud applications like Anthos, right? So that's a different paradigm out there where the application itself is now talking in multi-cloud sense, so like what GCP guys were telling you about. So that's very important to understand. Now, when an enterprise moves into a cloud, typically they start their journey from a single cloud. Although their business objective is to provide multi-cloud support or optionality, but because of the fear of unknown, they're already present in the on-prem, they'll go with one cloud provider, right? CSP. Now, as soon as they move into the cloud, they see a lot of challenges there, a lot of limitations. For example, if you talk about just the hybrid connectivity from the on-prem into the cloud, you purchase a 10 gig circuit, a private circuit from Equinix or Megaport or other providers out there, but those circuits are not encrypted by default. And when you try to encrypt those circuits through IPsec, you only get 1.2 Gbps throughput. That's not good at all, right? So you're paying for the circuit, but you're not getting the full throughput. Then when you go into the cloud, when you talk about deploying your application in the cloud, there is no proper segmentation available there. It's like very flat out there, right? So then you have this challenge. How do I protect my blue workload from the green workload? Because this is what I have been doing in the on-prem world. And how do I actually extend this segment from cloud to the on-prem world? Then when you are talking about these applications, they are deployed in the micro-segmented way. All right, there are Kubernetes applications, there are microservices running out there. They need to talk to the internet resources. So that's the egress traffic we are talking about. So these guys are talking to CI/CD pipelines, GitHub, other SaaS services, but the NAT gateways that are provided by these cloud providers are not enough, because you need to provide security better than pure IP and port-based security there, right? And then when you're talking about these large enterprises, they have partners, they have mergers and acquisitions. So these guys are bringing their own IPs, but in the cloud, you cannot have a concept of overlapping IP. So you're stuck there, right? And when you talk about providing some extra layer of security using next generation firewalls, then what happens that when you try to insert it into this traffic flow, it's very difficult, because now you're dealing with a lot of manual routing updates or route changes in the VPC, in the transit gateway and whatnot. And even with that, if you somehow did that, when it comes to connecting these firewalls, you are again limited by the IPsec performance. You have to do source NAT, so you lose visibility, right? Day two operations becomes a very big, huge issue, because now these components are like black boxes to you. You use trace route, packet capture, ping, those type of tools, basic tools are not available in the cloud. If they are, they're very difficult to actually operate and manage. And then when you multiply this across multiple cloud, that's even been a huge challenge. This is what customers are facing every single day. Now what they're saying that I need all that, but in a multi-cloud fashion, right? So how do I train my stuff? So now this is a completely different ball game. How do I onboard my clients and application across these multiple clouds? Because you will do some routing or some security here in AWS one way, Azure is completely different, GCP has a different approach. So how do I actually do that? So there is no architecture to even clouds together in a highly available fashion. And then multi-cloud visibility becomes extremely important, because now you cannot rely on the AWS or Azure toolset to look into the visibility. You have to have visibility across all these multiple public clouds. The business continuity is another challenge, because now you know that these regions or services might go down. So you have to have a strategy where you can easily do your DR to the other public cloud or a different region, right? But if you're dependent on one cloud, then you cannot do that, right? The automation again is very important, because now the AWS their cloud formation, GCP follows a different techniques, Azure has something different. So you need to have a consistent automation across the board. So these are the very important challenges. Obviously there are more than that, but I'm going to stick to the important one here. Now, how do we actually do that? So Aviatrix, what it does basically, it gives you this software architecture, which is like SDN, which decouples the control plane from the management plane. So first of all, we have this controller that you can deploy from any major CSP marketplace. So once you deploy this is like your multilingual um, device or brain of the solution, right? So what it does, it not only understands all the cloud native constructs, but it also builds a hub and spoke architecture, right? With a proper layered approach. So what you see here is access layer for your on-prem resources. The core layer is your backbone. This is where the Aviatrix gateways are sitting. And then the app layer, you have spoke gateways, right? And then you have these pillars, security and operations pillars as part of this architecture. So that's what we do. And then not only that, we also connect to the third-party providers like Fortinet, Checkpoint, Palo Alto, and others. And that last piece here in the architecture is our Aviatrix CoPilot that provides you multi-cloud visibility and operations across the board, right? So now you have that, but not only you can cater the needs of one cloud, but you can also manage and operate your multiple cloud data center network, if you want to call it, right? So this is one single highly available controller that is managing across all multiple clouds. Okay, so that's what exactly we are solving. So like the challenges I mentioned before, if you are only in one single cloud, now what with this help of this architecture and platform, you can have high performance encryption. We call it HPE or insane mode. You can build your workload across different segments, and you have a policy-based approach to segment those workloads or those VPCs or VNets. When it comes to sending that traffic towards the internet, you're not dealing with the IP or port-based security groups. You're talking about fully qualified domain names, rules that you can create with the policy that we provide. The overlapping IP support is available with our platform. So if you have partners that are coming in or connecting to your cloud data center, they can bring you their own IP. The next generation firewall service insertion is a policy based, again, because you can just create a policy saying this is the VPC or VNet I want to protect, and then the controller will automatically do the job, will create the proper security groups, create the rules, create the route table, will insert the firewall into the mix, and without any compromises. So there's not going to be any IPsec, so you're not limited by 1.25 GB. There is no source NAT, so you have full visibility. And then not only that, you have this whole thing available with the enterprise grade visibility and compliance. Now, if you move into some other cloud, that's the same architecture you copy paste into other cloud. Okay, so that's very powerful. That's very important because your architecture stays standard across multiple cloud. Now you don't have to worry about the skill gap problem because now we are creating this abstraction across multiple clouds. So you don't have to worry about how these clouds are working or behaving in the background. And this is all enterprise grade. This is all highly available. When we deploy this hub and spoke model, we build multiple tunnels, we deploy multiple gateways, so we make sure that there is no single point of failure in the entire architecture. With that, you can have the peace of mind of having this business continuity there, because if a cloud is going down or if region has problem, the routing that we provide is all deterministic. So let's say this link goes down here in between region 1 and region 2, we will automatically use a backup link through Equinix or some other on-prem MPLS technology and then send the traffic across to other cloud or other region. Okay, and that actually allows you to have a consistent security posture. So you're not dealing with snowflakes or issues right there. Now this could be very overwhelming. So the bottom line is that you can start anywhere with a one pain point, maybe it's egress FQDN, and then you can grow anywhere you want. It's extremely flexible architecture. We have a lot of customers that we have supported, and I actually personally work with a lot of enterprises. You can see they're across all different verticals and geographies, but I'll pick only one customer today for my case study. So this is the enterprise that I work with. They started in AWS, and what they wanted to have presence in one region to begin with, right? And they started with the AWS TGW. And you can look at this diagram and the challenges that they ran into. First of all, there is no control plane, right? So that's first thing. And then when they were talking about connecting these VPCs to TGW, they are not encrypted by default, right? And then the route propagation is also manual. So you need to manually adjust the route table so that you can reach to your destination. The IPsec limitation I already talked about. So when you have this direct connect, it's only 1.25 GB if you want to encrypt that. There is no policy option to create segmentation between green and blue and other segments that you have in your environment. The centralized network or next generation firewall is only active in standby. And then you have the problem of SNAT and all these other limitations that I talked about. When you look at the networking challenges, again, this is something which is like, when I first look at that, I said, wow, this is not possible for any enterprise to take. So for example, when you're sending the seeders from cloud to on-prem, it's only 20. And then from here, from on-prem to cloud is only 100 BGP route limit. So there are a lot of limitations and challenges when you are going with the cloud native options. Now, with Aviatrix, what we have done, again, we provided this multi-cloud network architecture. So we have the controller, the CoPilot for the visibility, and with that, you have a proper control plane. So you can, the control plane is looking at all the different angles and reading all the different logs and then messages that are coming across, and it's actually solving all the problems that I mentioned in my previous slide. But not only that, there are some other security challenges. For example, when you are talking about connecting your on-prem to S3 buckets, usually you would go with a public WIF, but with our solution, what you can have secure S3 access over your private direct connect connection. So there are a lot more features. There are so many things that I want to talk about. I will appreciate if you can go to our website and read more upon it. Now, but the beauty is that this customer extended into GCP and the same architecture followed. So all the benefits that I talked about, they followed. So we not only deploy this hub and spoke architecture, solve all those challenges, but we also embrace the cloud native constructs like the Guard Duty or the Azure Virtual Desktop Solution or GKE and Anthos. So this is from our professional services. This is a very typical deployment that we see pretty much every week, which is called 4+1 high-level design, where majority of the customers, enterprise customers, are now talking about 4 different major cloud. Plus one is on-prem, because yes, on-prem is a reality. It will stay there for a while. And this is exactly what you see. The same architecture approach that I talked about is something you can see here as a reference slide. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly show you CoPilot Demo. So if you can see my screen, you will notice this is our Aviatrix controller view, and you can see we have deployed the transit gateway, and then we have the spokes there. But what is important is to look at this CoPilot, where when you log into the CoPilot, that's your compliance view. You can see the inventory of all the resources you have deployed in your environment, right? And then what you also can see is the topology view. So as you're building things through the controller, we actually building topology on the runtime. And this actually helps our customer find the rogue resources. So if you have a rogue VPC or instance, you can easily identify and say that this is not part of my compliance posture. Then you also have deep visibility into the flow data, right? The net flow type data, so that you can go more deeper into your traffic patterns and identify anomalies or spikes, right? So that's what we provide you through this tool. And then you have the map view, where you can see exactly where the data is coming from or going towards. So you can identify the problems again, right? Because if there is a region where you have a lot of data going to, that is a concern, should be a concern to you. Then we have Top Talker that we can identify. You can have the view into the performance or the latency monitoring. We have the cloud route, which aggregates all the routes across multiple clouds, so you can give it to your auditor for the compliance needs and whatnot. And then the last one is about going more deeper into the net flow data, where you can identify the different type of attack, could be DDoS or different type of SYN attacks that you can identify. You can create alerts and send it to us, to your email team, or you can also create the webhooks for those alerts. So I will appreciate if you can go to this YouTube link and take a look. I'm reaching towards the end of my presentation. So what I want you guys to do is go to our community.aviatrix.com website. And if you're new to cloud, if you want to learn about Aviatrix, it's available in the marketplace in metered fashion. With this sandbox starter, it only takes 5 clicks, and it will deploy not only the controller, but your hub and spoke topology across multiple clouds. My email address is here. You can reach out to me. If you want to schedule a customized design session, I'm open to that. Please reach out to me.